Hey there, Sheepdogs. Welcome to the Sheepdogs Union. I wanted to talk about getting involved in third-party incidents. So there's two stories that I want to talk about of where intervening in a third-party incident either was wrong or was at least done wrong. So there's the Diaper Thief. This happened a while back where it was in a Walmart parking lot. A group of people were running out, having stolen a bunch of things, including diapers, and a concealed carry permit holder in the parking lot decided to try and intervene and stop the people who were shoplifting. And he says that the guy reached for what he thought was a gun, at which point he feared for his life and shot the guy who stole the diapers, killing him. Sorry, a kid running by outside, and I was double checking to make sure it wasn't my kid. It's not my kid. My kids are all accounted for. That none of them snuck out of the house, and that's good. Where was I? Diaper Thief. Right. He so basically what ends up, he kills this guy who was stealing diapers, right? Now, yes, the conflict escalated. It was that guy who escalated the conflict. So yeah, I don't think he, charges weren't pressed, but it looked really bad in the media, and there's another story. I heard this one on the radio, and this is the one that actually triggered my idea for this video. I don't remember where this happened or when this happened, but I need to pause this video because that's the sound of my kids opening the outside door. Okay, and I'm back. Having 6 kids is always interesting. So, the other story, the mental patient. So, I don't remember where this happened, but there were 2 guys who were charged with transporting a mental patient. They stopped for lunch or for gas, I don't remember, and the mental patient escapes. And he starts running down the street saying, "Help, help, they're trying to kill me." Concealed carry permit holder decides to intervene. Up to this point, we're good. But what he does when the orderlies, I don't remember what their actual title was, did not respond to his commands to leave the guy alone, he fired a warning shot in a populated area, which was bad. And then, so this is one of those things, in an ideal world, it shouldn't matter, and we shouldn't even be thinking about it. But in response to, things going on with Black Lives Matter and organizations like that, this guy decides that when he's talking to the cops to bring that up because the mental patient happened to be white and the guy's trying to detain him legally because it was their job, happened to be black. And so he brought up Black Lives Matter in his interview with the police. Yeah. So both of these stories have been used to justify a position that I strongly disagree with. And that is, it might go poorly, so don't get involved. If, you only carry to protect your life and your family, and don't ever think about getting involved if it's not you and your family. And I've got a big problem with that idea, because I think, we have a responsibility to our fellow citizens, whether we carry a gun or not, to do the right thing and try to stop people doing evil. mean, if you're a good person, that's what you should do. But these are two very good examples of how you can do that wrong, right? So the things that we need to think about before we get involved in a third-party incident. Number one is proportionality. Okay, a common issue with people getting in trouble for concealed carry mistakes, and here comes one of my kids again. Having kids is fun. Okay, man, how many times have I stopped this video? I don't know. Maybe I don't trust myself with editing. It never turns out right when I try to edit. So, anyways, I'll pick up where I left off, I think. So first thing to think about when you're getting involved in a third-party encounter is proportionality. Think about what's at stake if you don't intervene. And if what's at stake if you don't intervene is a couple packages of diapers from Walmart, don't intervene. It's a story that I have heard repeated a few times. This one was in Walmart. I heard one at a Home Depot, where people with concealed carry permits decide to intervene against shoplifting. And we're not there to protect property, we're there to protect life and limb. So if a shoplifter is waving a gun around, then yes, shoot him. If a shoplifter is running out of a store that's insured with a package of diapers, memorize his license plate number. Okay. Those types of incidents, it's better to be a good witness than to try and stop somebody. Because at that point, you're escalating the situation. This was not a violent crime. This was a non-violent property crime. If you decide to intervene with force, suddenly now you're the one who made it a violent encounter, and that's going to get you in trouble. The other thing that happens in these incidents is people fire at fleeing suspects. That's a really bad idea. Unless it's a terrorist on their way to set off a bomb, don't shoot at a fleeing suspect. Okay. The violent encounter is over. Okay. You only get involved to protect life and limb. So on to the mental patient case. Now, I don't know a lot of the details, and from what it sounded like, I mean, I'm questioning, either the defender / shooter was really not paying attention and didn't notice that the guys chasing the other guy had uniforms on, or these guys whose job it was to hold somebody against their will were doing so in street clothes, not wearing uniforms. So if they were wearing uniforms and properly identified as, mental patient transporting people, then this guy was way off base for getting involved in the first place. If they weren't wearing uniforms, then they were way off base for chasing somebody down the street, even though that was their job, and not identifying themselves as people whose job it is to chase this guy down the street and stop it. They should have been yelling after, "Hey, stop that guy. He's a mental patient," whatever. So I don't know who screwed up there because I don't know the details, but that's something to think about if you're in the type of profession where it might be your job to chase somebody down the street. make sure you wear a uniform, identify yourself, that kind of thing. If you are a defender, concealed carrier, and you see somebody being chased by people in uniform, as a general rule, help the people in uniform. That's going to keep you out of trouble. Number 2, warning shots. Now, we don't want to take a life, right? That's our job, is to protect life, so we think, taking the warning shot is a way to get somebody's attention and escalate the threat without actually hurting somebody. The problem is that it doesn't always work that way. Every time you pull that trigger, you are throwing a piece of lead out there that can kill somebody. So unless you happen to be, at a shooting range and you can shoot into a nice berm, taking a warning shot is just too big of a risk to justify the benefit. If they're not responding to your verbal commands and the sight of a gun, the sound of a gun probably isn't going to help too much. So do not take warning shots ever. Okay. If the only reason that you pull the trigger is because it is time to execute the threat, up until that point, you need to use gestures and you need to use your voice. Do not try to use the sound of the gun going off. The other thing where that guy went wrong is when you talk to the police, generally don't. Don't volunteer information. Don't volunteer what you're thinking. Don't volunteer. Just say, I observed somebody expressing that they feared for their life. I perceived a credible and imminent threat, and I intervened. Period. Don't talk about Black Lives Matter. If you're black, don't talk about the KKK. You'll probably get a little more understanding than a white person talking about Black Lives Matter, but it's still not a good idea. Don't bring that stuff up in that situation. So yeah, don't talk more than you have to. Say either I was threatened and I defended myself, or I saw that person being threatened and I chose to intervene. I want to talk to a lawyer before I say anything else, period. So at the end of the day, the lesson is, don't let those stories discourage you from getting involved in a third-party encounter, because that happens, and only 5% of the population carries. I mean, it's not a big number. So if we want to make a difference, then we have to be ready to get involved when it's somebody else's problem. But when you get involved in a third-party incident, you have to be absolutely careful how you do it. You have to consider every risk that you're putting out there. Don't take warning shots, for instance. You have to consider proportionality of the incident. Is this a mortal threat? Is this something that justifies me getting to the point of possibly a deadly threat? And be very careful about the optics of what you do, because the world is watching. And it's not just your local politician. There are other countries looking at adopting concealed carry, and they're looking at the U.S. and saying, maybe this will work. There are other countries that already have. We've got Israel's a good example. We've got a couple places in Eastern Europe, I think Hungary, and blanking on the other one. But it's out there, but we want this idea to spread. We want more people to be able to defend their neighbors and themselves. So you always have to be conscious of how your actions are going to be perceived before you engage in a conflict and before you talk to anybody about that conflict. So with that, thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Always remember to be ready to be somebody else's miracle.